2025 was a very interesting year for WWE. It was the year of John Cena's farewell tour, which was polarizing to say the least. It was the year that WWE decided to give Jey Uso a main event push, which was also polarizing to say the least. It was the year that both AJ Lee and Brock Lesnar returned, and in the case of Brock Lesnar, that was polarizing to say the least. And it was the year that marked the official end of Triple H's honeymoon period as head of creative. But most importantly, 2025 was a year full of great wrestling matches, specifically on WWE PLEs, which is why today we are going to rank all of them. That's right, every single one. I'm Brandon, this is Wrestling Talk, and today I'm going to be continuing the trend I started in 2024, where at the end of the year, I look back and rank all of the year's PLE matches from worst to best. Just a few disclaimers, I will be keeping it limited to the WWE main roster PLEs, as well as the Saturday night main events. I won't be including NXT or AAA events because I don't really watch those, and I'd like to keep it streamlined to the main roster. But even still, there are a ton of matches to get through. If my calculations are correct, 99 to be exact. So if you want to just put me on in the background while you do something else, go right ahead, because this video is going to be pretty long. But without further ado, let's get started. Coming in last place, number 99, the worst PLE match of 2025. Full disclosure, I was jumping between two matches for this bottom spot, and I feel like you can probably guess what those two matches are. Nevertheless though, I had to make a decision, so the worst match of 2025 is John Cena versus Brock Lesnar at WrestlePalooza. A match with zero redeeming qualities. When this match was first announced, I thought it was going to be John Cena's last ever Extreme Rules type match. I thought it would be a no DQ match, him and Brock would use a bunch of weapons, maybe Cena would get himself a bit of a crimson mask. I thought it was going to be telling the story of John Cena conquering the Beast one final time. But what we ended up getting was just a squash match. John Cena got his 5 moves of doom in, and then Brock Lesnar just went to town, delivering a bunch of F5s and German suplexes, and then he just won and that's it. I swear, Brock Lesnar for the past 10 years is no different than Goldberg. He just comes in every once in a while, squashes someone who shouldn't be squashed, and only uses the same 2 goddamn moves. This match opened WrestlePalooza, so it was basically WWE's big kickoff on ESPN, and they give us this crap. And what makes matters worse is they never even followed up on this. There was no rematch where Cena could get his win back, and we didn't even get Cena in War Games where maybe we could see him avenge this loss somewhat. Cena just got squashed by Brock Lesnar, and that is the ending of their story. When this match happened, it basically deflated the rest of John Cena's farewell tour. Yes, we got good matches after this, but even to this day, this is such a massive stain on John Cena's retirement tour. It felt like both guys just phoned it in for an easy payday. According to Cena in the Chris Van Vliet interview, the idea of this match was to build Brock Lesnar up as a mountain so that someone could retire him at SummerSlam next year. Probably Gunther. If there is anyone in WWE history who does not need to be built up as a mountain to climb, it's Brock Lesnar. I honestly got nothing more to say. This match was dog shit. Thankfully though, Brock Lesnar should be retiring at some point next year, so it looks like we're only going to have him around for another 4 to 5 matches. If I never see Brock Lesnar on WWE television again, I'd be fine. The dude has been doing the same shit for a decade. The only redeemable quality about this match is it's not that long. You can't say the same for our next match though, because coming in at number 98, John Cena versus Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 41. The match that derailed WWE for the rest of the year. I really debated putting this match in last place, mainly because of the damage that it did. Cena versus Brock was terrible, but it was a one-off match, whatever. This was the main event of WWE's biggest show of the year. There was a lot riding on this match, and they dropped the ball hard. According to Cena, his idea was to purposely give the audience a bad match, because that was the whole thesis of his heel character. He wants to ruin pro wrestling. So if the audience wants to see John Cena in new gear with new music as a heel, he's not going to give it to you. And if the audience wants to see entertaining matches, he's not going to give it to you. So first of all, I hate that approach. It's way too meta, way too complex. But also when you get to this match, it feels like Cena is just making things up as he goes. shows. Keep in mind, this was his first time as a heel in like 20 years, so he's basically just pulling out every heel trick in the book. He's cheating, he's being memeable, he's being slow and methodical, he's being cowardly. It felt like they were just throwing shit at a wall hoping it sticks. And let's be honest, none of it did. As a WrestleMania main event, this was so boring. It was slow paced, Cody and Cena did not have the best in-ring chemistry, and then of course you get to Travis Scott, who should have never been involved in this story to begin with. This is not how you inject a celebrity into WWE stories. Look at what they did with Bad Bunny and Logan Paul. They had those guys in mid-card level matches first so that they could endear themselves to the WWE audience, whether they were a heel or a babyface. Travis Scott shows up with The Rock leading into this big WrestleMania match where you have John Cena versus Cody Rhodes, and all this guy did was come in, bust Cody Rhodes' eardrum, slowly walk out during the main event, and then help John Cena win, and then he dipped. We never saw him again. This match was such a fumble, and honestly, I don't think WWE has creatively recovered from this since. Unlike the Brock versus Cena match where there are no redeemable qualities, in this match there are two. One, we did get to see John Cena win the record-breaking 17th championship. Now, the match that preceded it was dog shit, and from a narrative standpoint, it didn't even work because the babyface was getting booed and the heel was being cheered, but it was nice to see him finally break the record. Number two, this was a part one to John Cena and Cody Rhodes' story. Unlike the Brock versus Cena match, which was just a random one-off that led nowhere and helped no one, this match, at the very least, led to the SummerSlam match being that much better. So in a way, it did serve a purpose. And another thing, we didn't even get The Rock. Now granted, WWE never officially advertised The Rock for WrestleMania 41, but after Elimination Chamber, it was heavily implied that Bro was gonna be there. So the fact that we didn't get The Rock, but we got Travis Scott, who was what, his henchman? The guy who's not a wrestler? It all was just so sloppy and slow. Honestly, this match and the Brock match are interchangeable for last place. Both of them were awful matches that made me lose a ton of faith in Triple H. Number 97, Chelsea Green versus Zelina Vega at Saturday night's main event. Yeah, this one wasn't very good. Chelsea Green is super entertaining. She's one of my favorite wrestlers on the roster, but this match was very short and very bad. There was a ton of botches in it. Most of them seemed to come from Zelina Vega. I'm not a wrestler, so I don't know who exactly is at fault for what botch, but this match, in a word, sloppy. Yeah, the less said about this, the better. Moving on. Next up, CM Punk versus Jey Uso at Saturday night's main event. Oh boy. This year had some bad matches, man. Talk about two wrestlers who just don't have good in-ring chemistry. It's these two. This match was slow as fudge, and there were also a ton of botches, namely from Jey Uso. But then when you get to the back half of the match and CM Punk hits his own version of a spear, that's when I just started laughing. This was really bad. And even once you get to the ending where CM Punk finally wins a world title and doesn't get immediately cashed in on, it was very similar to when Cena won the world title at WrestleMania 41. It was just empty. I honestly think they should have had Braun Breaker take the spot of Jey Uso in this match and put the title on Braun Breaker here. It would have been a better match, it would have capitalized on Braun Breaker turning on Seth Rollins, and it would save the inevitable moment of when CM Punk wins a world title and doesn't lose it right away for a bigger stage. Because CM Punk finally winning and holding on to a world title at this show after this match was just so lame. And that's putting it mildly. I'm honestly curious to see WWE's highlight reel from this match. I have to assume that it's like 30 seconds long max. Okay, rounding out our bottom 5 matches of the year is Becky Lynch versus Nikki Bella at Clash in Paris. Coming off of her great feud with Lyra Valkyria, I was really interested to see what Becky Lynch versus Nikki Bella would look like in 2025. But what we ended up getting was basically just a showcase of Nikki Bella's ring rust more than anything. Similar to some of the other matches we just talked about, there were a number of very noticeable botches here, and even though they were in front of one of WWE's best crowds of the year, even that couldn't help the match. It just felt so slow and pedestrian. Really just a bad day at the office. Next up, Jacob Fatu versus Solo Sikoa at SummerSlam. When putting this list together, I was shocked to have this match ranked so low. But when looking back at the entire year, this truly was one of the worst matches I saw. The whole thing just felt so disjointed and uneventful and sloppy. And before you know it, Solo Sikoa is crawling out of the front door and the match is over. And it's only then that Jacob Fatu decides to climb up the steel cage and do his big moonsault on top of the MFTs. Like, bro, why weren't you doing that during the match? This was just a huge case of what the hell went wrong here. I also think Jacob Fatu needed to win back the US title here, because after this match, I feel like Jacob Fatu's stock went down drastically. Obviously, he's been dealing with health problems outside of WWE, but from a character perspective, him losing this match and then just going on to not care about the US title anymore felt so weird. It was such a disservice to his character, and it basically resulted in Solo Sikoa winning their feud together, which I do not think was a good look. So yeah, for a steel cage match involving Jacob Fatu, not only should this match have been much better, there is no excuse for why it ended up being this bad. Next up, Logan Paul versus AJ Styles at WrestleMania 41. I have a feeling a lot of people would have this match ranked much higher, but for me, I thought it was awful. And I hate saying that because when this match was initially announced, I was so hyped for it. As an in-ring wrestler, I'm a huge fan of Logan Paul, and AJ Styles is obviously one of the GOATs. Not only was this a bit of a modern-day dream match, it had the potential to steal the entire show at WrestleMania. And what we ended up getting just felt so lifeless and rehearsed. It just felt like two guys executing a very well choreographed dance. Logan hits his move, AJ hits his move, and then we just go back and forth until it ends. If you watch it back, the crowd was clearly not into this match either. You do get Karrion Kross involved towards the end, which was fine, but honestly, other than Cena versus Cody, this was my least favorite match of WrestleMania. And again, I'm a huge fan of Logan Paul in the ring. I think his matches against guys like Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins and Rey Mysterio are all fantastic. But for whatever reason, him and AJ Styles just didn't work well together. And I honestly think this is one of the most disappointing matches of the entire year. Next up, Stephanie Vaquer versus Nikki Bella at Survivor Series War Games. Now this is a bit of an improvement from Nikki Bella versus Becky Lynch at Clash in Paris, mainly because Nikki Bella is working as a heel in this match. She's always worked better as a heel, and I think her being a heel allows her to do more interesting things from a character perspective that help mask some of her limitations in the ring. I thought this match was fine though. It was an easy, breezy win for Stephanie Vaquer, and it made her look like a star. So from that respect, mission accomplished. But when you compare it to all of the other matches this year, it just doesn't hold a candle and immediately falls down to that bottom rung. So I wouldn't say this is an awful match by any means, but it's just kinda there. Next up, Sami Zayn versus Karrion Kross at SummerSlam. From an in-ring standpoint, I didn't love this match because Karrion Kross has never been one of my favorite in-ring wrestlers. I don't find his matches that compelling, but I am a big fan of Karrion Kross as a character. So going into this big blow-off match for his Sami Zayn feud, I thought we were going to get some really awesome story beats. And spoiler alert, we didn't get any of that. There was one point where Sami Zayn was tempted to use like a bat, and then he didn't, and he won the right way. So from an in-ring standpoint, it wasn't very good, and from a story standpoint, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't memorable at all. It was pretty much just uneventful. Rounding out our bottom 10 matches of 2025 is the men's War Games match. Okay, so from a surface level standpoint, I did find some entertainment value in this match because you have a ton of big names in the ring together. Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, Brock Lesnar, Drew McIntyre. This match is basically the equivalent of taking all of your favorite action figures and just putting them in a ring together. However, this match is also like taking all of your favorite action figures, putting them in a ring together, and then just staring at them doing nothing. Because that's what watching this match felt like. Nothing of substance went down at all. For the heels, there was no internal conflict. They just came in, they were a well-oiled machine, and they just kicked ass. But then for the baby faces, they didn't even really show them not working well together. There was one moment where Cody Rhodes hit CM Punk with an accidental elbow, but at the end of the match, they teased Roman Reigns not being okay with Cody Rhodes, and during during the match, I don't even think the two of them interacted together once. Literally nothing went down in this match that would have made Roman or Cody not like each other more than they already did. Beyond the lack of a story though, the actual in-ring match kinda sucked. It was a lot of very uneventful, kinda sloppy wrestling, and then Roman and Brock come in at the end, finisher spam for a bit, and then before you know it, the match is over. We never even got to see that standard 5-on-5 face-off. I thought that was like a staple of the War Games match. Once everyone's entered, you do the 5-on-5 stare down, and then all hell breaks loose. Honestly, this might be my least favorite War Games match since it's moved up to the main roster. It just felt like WWE taking their biggest names, throwing them in a ring together, and saying, hey, don't take this above a 6. So in that respect, mission accomplished. Next up, Sami Zayn versus Karrion Kross at Night of Champions. From an in-ring standpoint, I enjoyed it more than the SummerSlam match, but it still has the exact same problems where the storytelling wasn't really there. I don't think Sami and Karrion Kross worked all that well together, nor do I think Karrion Kross is particularly great in the ring. This was just a whatever match. Next up, John Cena versus R-Truth at Saturday night's main event. What a missed opportunity this was. If you really wanted to highlight the John Cena heel character, why not have him squash R-Truth and just beat him down even after the bells rung? But they didn't do that. It was just a 5-minute match of whatever. I did like the moment where Cena hesitated before hitting R-Truth. I wish they expanded on that a bit more. Do I look at this as like a waste of a match for John Cena's farewell tour? Kinda? I don't hate it, but it's just so forgettable. And it could have been so much more. Next up, Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre at Saturday night's main event. So from an in-ring standpoint, I actually found this really entertaining at first, but then it just devolved into setup for the SummerSlam tag match, Randy Orton and Jelly Roll versus Logan Paul and Drew McIntyre. And I can't lie, it was kind of entertaining on a very surface level, but leaving this match, the only takeaway there is, oh yeah, they're gonna do a tag match at SummerSlam. You're not actually talking about the match. But yeah, it was fine. Next up is the New Day versus the War Raiders at WrestleMania 41 for the World Tag Titles. This was basically just a Monday Night Raw match that somehow snuck its way onto the WrestleMania card. Was it entertaining? Yeah. Did it warrant a spot on the WrestleMania card? No. Next up, Jade Cargill versus Asuka at Night of Champions. This was the finals for the Queen of the Ring tournament. And this match I thought was fine, but it never kicked into that next gear, nor do I think Jade and Asuka had the best in-ring chemistry. The crowd was also totally behind Asuka, which was cool to see, and I'm also happy with the finish of Jade Cargill winning. But as an actual match, there are good moments in it, but for the most part, this isn't a match that I see myself going back to rewatch. It's not terrible by any means, but it's definitely one of the weaker matches of the entire year. Next up is Dominic Mysterio versus Octagon Jr. at Money in the Bank. For a match that had a day-long build, being set up first at the Worlds Collide event earlier in the day, and then happening at Money in the Bank later in the day, I thought it was fine. It was basically just a Monday Night Raw match that introduced WWE audiences to Octagon Jr. Was it anything to write home about? No, but it was harmless. Next up, the Wyatt Six versus the Street Profits at Clash in Paris. Now this match could have been great if they stuck to the story beats that they were setting up initially, where the Wyatt Six were trying to get in the heads of the Street Profits by basically tearing them apart. And if this match told that story, I think it would have been awesome. Because from an in-ring standpoint, this was super entertaining. But after the first 2 minutes, WWE completely dropped the entire story of Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins not being on the same page and not getting along anymore as a tag team, and for the rest of the match they were just 100% on the same page, contras aligned, so what you ended up getting was just a SmackDown tag match. It was pretty good, but they completely dropped the ball with the storytelling. Next up is another tag match, DIY versus Motor City Machine Guns at the Royal Rumble. Triple H did this match so dirty by putting it next to 2 Royal Rumble matches and Cody versus Kevin Owens in this big ladder match. Even with the added stipulation of the match being 2 out of 3 falls, I just feel like these guys were set up to fail. Because you have all of the attention on the Rumble matches and Cody versus Kevin Owens, this match became the de facto bathroom break. The crowd wasn't into it even when the Street Profits showed up at the end. It ended up just being a very forgettable tag match. Again, from an in-ring standpoint, I I liked it, but there was just nothing to attach to from a story standpoint. So because of that, there was nothing to care about. Next up, Seth Rollins versus LA Knight at Saturday night's main event. This was the infamous match where Seth Rollins faked a knee injury. And honestly, before that injury spot, I thought Seth and LA were putting on a really fun match. After the spot happened, they had to end the match quickly so that they could keep the bit going. But still, I thought it was a pretty entertaining match with a really interesting finish that definitely sparked conversation online, so mission accomplished there. I just think it's a shame that we never got the Seth Rollins versus LA Knight rematch after he won the championship. Coming in at number 80 from that same Saturday night's main event show, Solo Sikoa versus Jimmy Uso. This match, like the Randy versus Drew match, was basically just set up for a SummerSlam match. But before all of the overbooking stuff started happening, I thought Solo and Jimmy were putting on a pretty damn entertaining match. And once you get all of the MFTs involved and Jacob Fatu returning, I thought it was harmless. Again, nothing to write home about because it was basically just used as setup for a SummerSlam match, but as a SmackDown match that was put on a Saturday night's main event show, I thought it did the job. Next up, Jey Uso versus Logan Paul at Saturday night's main event. Just like some of the other Saturday night's main event matches that we've talked about, this was also just used as setup for another PLE match, and really a pretty pointless one too. It was John Cena and Logan Paul versus Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes at Money in the Bank. From an in-ring standpoint, I thought this was fine, but it never kicked things into another gear because John Cena and Cody Rhodes had to come out to set up the tag match. So what we ended up with for Jey Uso's first world title defense was just alright. Next up, Gunther versus Pat McAfee at Backlash. Initially, I thought this match was going to rank very low on my list, but when I looked at some of the other matches that we just mentioned, Pat McAfee versus Gunther was more memorable than all of them. And it did have some interesting story beats too, namely with Michael Cole being a very biased commentator in favor of Pat McAfee. From an in-ring standpoint, this was not anything to write home about, but it was unique and different, and it was kind of interesting. Pat McAfee, I don't think is great in the ring, but he was fine in this role. So yeah, I don't think this match was as awful as some of the big stinkers of the year, nor do I think it was like an unmemorable whatever match. I thought it was kind of memorable, and it did its job. Did I need to see this match? No. Am I glad that I saw this match? Sure. Next up, Randy Orton versus Joe Hendry at WrestleMania 41. This match was all about the moment. Joe Hendry making his WrestleMania debut as Randy Orton's opponent. Randy Orton gets an easy win celebrating his 20th anniversary at WrestleMania. From an actual match standpoint, it's very forgettable, but the moment that it created was a lot of fun. Next up, Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre at Saturday night's main event. I thought this was a perfectly fine show opener, albeit not a particularly memorable one. It was nice to see Cody Rhodes have a bit of an edge to him in the match, but yeah, this just felt like a checkbox more than anything. Like, alright, we gotta do Cody versus Drew round 2, let's just get that out of the way. That's what this felt like, but it was very entertaining. Next up, Goldberg versus Gunther at Saturday night's main event. Goldberg's final match not falling into the bottom 10 matches of the year should be victory enough. Honestly, for a Goldberg match, I thought this was as good as it was ever gonna be. Goldberg hit the spear, he hit the jackhammer, he got his son involved. Gunther was able to hit a bunch of chops and then get Goldberg in the sleeper. But unlike John Cena, Goldberg never tapped out, which means Goldberg is better than John Cena. He's tougher, it just is what it is. Sorry for the rage baiting. But yeah, I knew this match wasn't going to be as much of a train wreck as some of Goldberg's other matches because his opponent was Gunther. And Gunther is one of the best wrestlers today. Was this an amazing send-off for Goldberg? No, but for a guy at his age to put in a performance like this, it's very commendable. Next up, Jacob Fatu versus Solo Sikoa at Night of Champions. This was the match where Solo Sikoa took the US title from Jacob Fatu. From an in-ring standpoint, I thought it was way better than their match at SummerSlam. I thought all of the overbooking stuff worked with the MFTs, and I thought it was a protected loss for Jacob Fatu, unlike the SummerSlam match. That one just came off weird. But this one I thought was a perfectly entertaining match. Next up, Roman Reigns versus Bronson Reed at Clash in Paris. Full disclosure, I'm not a big fan of either of the Roman versus Bronson Reed matches. I just don't think the two guys have very good in-ring chemistry together, and I also think both matches are very slow and plodding, and neither of them climax in the way that you'd want them to make them narratively satisfying. And honestly, those are my exact thoughts for this match. It's very slow, very plodding, it never really kicks things into another gear, and then once Roman wins, we go into this very long beatdown segment with him, Braun Breaker, and Bronson Reed. I think it's fine, but it's just not anything to write home about. Next up, Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre at WrestlePalooza. This match I do think was better than the Saturday night's main event one from an in-ring standpoint, but this also should not have main evented. If you take this exact match and have it open the show instead, I'm fine with it. But as a main event, it just felt so uneventful. And really was a lame start to this Cody versus Drew McIntyre feud. Like after this match, I really had no interest in seeing Cody versus Drew again, but we ended up getting the Saturday night's main event match, and now we're probably going to see it again in 2026. So yeah, from an in-ring standpoint, I think this is the more entertaining match of the two, but this in no way deserved to be the main event of WrestlePalooza. Next up, CM Punk and Sami Zayn versus Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker at Saturday night's main event. This is a match that did what it needed to do and nothing else. From an in-ring standpoint, it was a lot of fun, but the mission of the match was to introduce Bronson Reed as a new member of the Vision, and they did that very effectively. Other than that, there's not much to talk about here. Coming in at number 70, the Women's Battle Royal at Evolution. Going into this match, we all knew Stephanie Vaquer was going to win, but I thought they did a good job of making the match as fun as they could, even though it was just a women's battle royal to see who gets a title shot at Clash in Paris, which ended up not happening. This was Nikki Bella's first match back with the WWE since the Royal Rumble, and once we got down to the final two, Stephanie Vaquer and Lash Legend, I thought it was really fun. This is by no means one of the best battle royals I've ever seen, but it was pretty fun and the right person won. Next up, Tiffany Stratton versus Jade Cargill at Saturday night's main event. This is another match that had a very specific job to do, and it pulled it off really well. They made Jade Cargill look like an absolute beast here. And they also made Tiffany Stratton look like a strong fighting champion who was fighting through an injury. It was about damn time that Jade Cargill won the WWE Women's Championship. It was about damn time that Tiffany lost it. As a squash match, I thought this was one of the better ones of the year, and I think it really catapulted Jade Cargill into that next phase of her career, being that bitch. Next up, Jey Uso versus Gunther at WrestleMania 41. Now, a lot of people probably have this match ranked very low, like at the bottom of their list. For me, I thought it was fine. It was a very predictable match with a very predictable winner to end a very predictable story. Do I think it was as good as their Saturday night's main event match? Honestly, no. To me, it was a solid 3 out of 5 star match. It wasn't offensive, but it certainly wasn't great. It wasn't that memorable, but it also didn't suffer from a lot of the problems like some of the other matches I already mentioned. It just existed to have Jey Uso win with this Cinderella story. Do I think Gunther needed to tap out immediately after being put in the sleeper hold? No, I wish he kind of sold it a bit more. And it also doesn't help that Gunther put Jey Uso in a sleeper hold to win the title back a few months later. It's nothing I'm gonna go back to rewatch, but it's fine. This really shows how much of a kind of lame, mediocre year this was for WWE though, because we are already at number 68, and the word that I keep using is fine, or harmless, or whatever. Trust me, eventually we're gonna get into the good matches. Coming up next at number 67, Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed versus the Usos at WrestlePalooza. This was basically just a Raw main event, but the right team won, and I do think it picked up a bit during the last portion. So yeah, solid tag match, return of the Usos, cool. Next up, Dominic Mysterio versus Penta at Backlash. For Dom's first big title defense, I thought this was a blast. He was using some moves here that I hadn't seen him use before. I thought Penta did great. We all knew Dom was going to retain, but I thought they did a good job of making it feel like maybe Penta would get the win. I just thought this was a very solid wrestling match. Next up, Trish Stratus and Tiffany Stratton Say that 5 times fast. Versus Nia Jax and Candice LeRae at Elimination Chamber. Elimination Chamber probably is the best overall PLE of the year. Granted, it was only 4 matches long, but this is the bottom match and it's coming in at number 65 out of 99. So I don't think that's bad at all. This was just a harmless tag match to get a good Canadian pop from a Canadian crowd. It's a bummer that WWE didn't use this match to lay the groundwork for Tiffany versus Trish at Evolution. It would have been nice if this match kind of showed Trish eyeing the WWE Championship or something like that. But what we got I thought was a very entertaining, essentially TV tag match, but on Elimination Chamber. I thought it was fine. Next up, another women's tag match. Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria versus Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez at WrestleMania 41. Now this match comes with an asterisk because even though it marked the big return for Becky Lynch replaced Bayley, meaning that Bayley was left off of WrestleMania. And that kinda sucks. But the actual tag match I thought was a lot of fun. Becky and Lyra got the win. Lyra became Lyra 2 belts for a day, and it really laid the groundwork for the Becky versus Lyra feud, which I thought was great. So as a match that was basically just used to have a WrestleMania moment, I thought they did a good job. Next up, Cody Rhodes versus Obafemi at Saturday night's main event. This was Obafemi's introduction to the WWE Universe on the main roster, and I thought he knocked it out of the park. From his entrance alone, the dude just has aura, he's dominant and huge, and he made Cody Rhodes look weak. And even during the match, Obafemi just came off looking like a star. It feels almost confirmed at this point that Gunther is going to be the one to retire Brock Lesnar next year, but I say nah, it should be Obafemi. The dude is just so good. That being said, the match didn't rank any higher because Drew McIntyre interfered at the end, wonked the finish. That was kind of lame. But man, mission accomplished because Obafemi came out of this match looking like a beast. Next up, Roman Reigns versus Bronson Reed at Crown Jewel. I thought this was an improvement on their Clash in Paris match, mainly because all of the overbooking stuff happened during the match itself. I still don't think Roman and Bronson Reed have very good in-ring chemistry, nor do I think this feud was all that compelling. I still found this match very slow and plodding, but it did pick up towards the end because you had the Usos get involved and Braun Breaker, and that was a lot of fun. And I was also happy to see Bronson Reed get the win, because there was no reason why Roman needed to win this match if he was just going to go away for another few months. So because the right person won, that ranks it a little higher. Next up, Tiffany Stratton versus Jade Cargill at SummerSlam. This match I thought could have been way better, but if we're just looking at what we got, I thought it was really entertaining. Tiffany is great in the ring, and Jade has such a great presence in the ring. I'm not one of those people that's gonna dog on Jade for being bad in the ring, because I don't think she's bad in the ring. I think she's very effective. And when I look at some of the other wrestlers who are constantly botching left and right, I don't think she botches nearly as much. So yeah, let's cut it out with the Jade Cargill hate. I think she's perfectly effective as a wrestler. And this match I thought was very entertaining, up until the finish where Jade Cargill basically just lost clean. I would not have done that. I would have done more of a protected loss for her, because after this match, it felt like Jade was just dragging her feet for a number of months until she turned heel. But yeah, I don't really get the hate for this match. I think it is a perfectly fine watch. Coming in at number 60, Braun Strowman versus Jacob Fatu at Saturday night's main event. Similar to Tiffany versus Jade at Saturday night's main event, the purpose of this match was to get Jacob Fatu over as a beast. And boy did they. The actual match itself I thought was fine, but the angle after the match, which I'm also including in the match here, I thought was awesome. Jacob Fatu just constantly hitting Braun Strowman with those moonsaults, Braun Strowman getting cut open. The whole match was pretty hard hitting, but once you put that button on it, it really goes up to that next level. And Jacob Fatu left this match looking like a star. Next up, the Women's War Games. Now don't get it twisted, I'm not in love with this match, and honestly I feel like it's probably the weakest Women's War Games match since it debuted on the main roster, but I still found it very entertaining for a few reasons. One, Io Sky. She's basically Miss War Games at this point, and her trash can spot was just insane. Another is Becky Lynch. Having Becky Lynch, who is the biggest star on the heel team, enter early on, I thought was a genius decision. Because too often in the War Games matches, You start off with the lesser known stars and you progressively build to the bigger stars. And honestly, I feel like that hurts the matches. So by having Becky Lynch enter so early, I feel like she was able to entertain the audience for that much longer. And I thought she was hilarious. And then also, I thought this was a huge vote of confidence for Lash Legend. Having her enter last for not just the heel team, but for the entire Women's War Games match, I thought was a bold move. And it paid off because Lash Legend looked like a star. Having her go one-on-one with Rhea Ripley and almost pin her was crazy. So again, I do think this is one of my least favorite Women's War Games matches, but I still had a lot of fun with it. Next up, Randy Orton and Jelly Roll versus Logan Paul and Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam. I initially thought this was going to be kinda awful, but it ended up being a lot of fun, even though it was way too long. I like the fact that Jelly Roll completely sold the moves of Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul, and I love that he took the L too. As just a throwaway, one-off celebrity match at SummerSlam, I thought this was very effective, it did its job, it was harmless, and I actually thought it told a really good story of Jelly Roll learning to stand up for himself against these mean wrestlers. I don't know, I dug it. Next up, Sheamus versus Braun Breaker at Saturday night's main event. This was not as good as the triple threat they had with Ludwig Kaiser at Survivor Series in 2024, but it was still very hard-hitting, very entertaining, and I do think it was the right call to have Braun retain, because when Sheamus wins the IC title finally, it needs to be on a bigger stage. So yeah, thumbs up. Next up, John Cena and Logan Paul versus Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso at Money in the Bank. Now this is the one PLE match of John Cena's retirement tour that I do not think needed to exist. I would have much rather filled this spot with John Cena versus LA Knight, or John Cena versus Drew McIntyre, or whoever. So putting aside the fact that I don't like that this match existed in the first place, I still thought it was pretty entertaining. In the first half, I was like really bored, but once you get into the back half where Cena and Logan Paul started disagreeing, I got interested, and then Logan Paul hit a huge table spot with Jey Uso. I thought that was awesome. And then of course you get the return of Ron Killings, which I thought was just the cherry on top, which made me actually enjoy the match. Now the follow through with Ron Killings, that's another story, but the actual tag match, I enjoyed it, even though I don't think it should have existed. Next up, Jey Uso versus Gunther at Saturday night's main event. I thought this was much more effective than the WrestleMania match because it was actually kind of unpredictable. Going in, I did think Gunther was going to retain, but they had enough hope spots in there where I actually thought, is Jey Uso going to do it? And keep in mind, this was before Jey Uso won the Royal Rumble, before WWE made it very clear that they were pushing him as one of the year's biggest stars. Because once all of that happened and he won the Rumble, it was so painfully obvious that Jey was going to beat Gunther at WrestleMania. But at this Saturday night's main event match, it was actually kind of unpredictable, so I enjoyed that. And also from an in-ring standpoint, I think it was just better than the WrestleMania match, plain and simple. Next up, Roman Reigns and Jey Uso versus Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed at SummerSlam. This to me was a pointless tag match at first, but then it eventually led to Roman Reigns kind of getting in Jey Uso's head and filling him with that tribal chief stuff, and I liked all of that. So because of that story, it did make me look back at this match much more fondly, and I can't lie, it's a lot of fun. Roman and Jey stopped the match so they can yeet with the crowd. I thought Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed worked really well as a team. It was just a very solid opener for SummerSlam, even though the right team didn't necessarily win. Next up, Charlotte Flair versus Tiffany Stratton at WrestleMania 41. Now this is a match that I predicted was going to happen like halfway through 2024. It just became very clear to me. So because of that, I was very much anticipating this match once Charlotte won the Rumble. But then we got into the feud. It was just so lame. It honestly only got interesting once Charlotte and Tiffany went off script and just started genuinely insulting each other on live television. But then we get to the WrestleMania match where I thought, oh, this is going to be great. Charlotte's one of the GOATs. Tiffany is insane. This is going to be awesome. But what we ended up getting was kind of awkward. It was very slow paced, which I thought was an interesting choice for this match, given how volatile the feud was leading into it. Also, I just don't think the two of them really gelled all that well together. I thought we were going to get something like Charlotte and Rhea at WrestleMania 39, or even Tiffany and Becky at NXT No Mercy. Don't get me wrong, it was entertaining. I have it at number 53, so it's basically right dab in the middle. But for a match of this caliber, with this talent involved, at at WrestleMania, I ended up thinking it was a bit of a letdown. Next up, the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Now this is a match that had a great outcome. Naomi winning Money in the Bank was fantastic. It took her heel character to that next level. But the actual match that preceded it, I thought was kind of underwhelming. First off, the crowd was dead for like the entire thing. For some reason, they just were not invested in this match, which is crazy to me. And we did get some good moments. Rhea facing off with Alexa Bliss and Stephanie Vaquer for the first time. But at the end of the day, the match felt kinda awkward. It never really kicked things into that next gear for being a ladder match. I do love that Julia was in it though, because WWE has done her so dirty this year. She was honestly one of my MVPs in the match. So I definitely enjoyed the match, but what ranks it higher on this list is the fact that Naomi won. Honestly, if you take out who won the match though, I think this would start to fall down the list a bit. Next up, Rhea Ripley versus Nia Jax at Saturday night's main event. This was probably the most predictable match of the entire year. No one thought Nia Jax was going to beat Rhea Ripley at all. But that being said, the two of them still put on a very entertaining match. And just like their match at Elimination Chamber last year, I thought this was surprisingly a blast, even though it was super predictable. And now we're basically at the halfway point at number 50, which is Rey Fenix versus El Grande Americano at WrestleMania 41. Now this match was put together very last minute. Originally, Rey Mysterio was supposed to face El Grande Americano, but the day before the match on SmackDown, Rey Mysterio got injured, and then Rey Fenix came in as a replacement. And for a match that was put together at the last minute, I thought these two guys knocked it out of the park. From an in-ring standpoint, it was hella fun, and this was the match that finally made me understand the humor of the El Grande Americano character. Before this match, the entire gimmick just wasn't really working for me. It felt like WWE was just going for the lowest hanging fruit possible, but seeing Chad Gable's performance as El Grande Americano in this match, along with the entrance and the whole pageantry of it, by the time the match ended, I looked at the character and said, okay, I'm kind of into it. Does it feel like some of the schlock that would have come out of the Vince McMahon era? Absolutely. But in this one match, it worked. Number 49, Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre in a steel cage match at Saturday night's main event. It's a shame that the most memorable thing about this match is the fact that one of the commentators, Jesse Ventura, completely buried the finish of the match when Damian Priest left through the door, because the match that preceded that was really entertaining. I don't think it's as good as their WrestleMania match, I'll get to that later, but as the blow-off match for their feud, I thought it was effective. And honestly, if Jesse Ventura's mic was muted, I feel like Damian Priest would have come out of that match looking like an absolute killer. He beats Drew McIntyre so bad that he can't get up anymore, so he just walks out of the cage like a boss. The idea of it is really good, but with Jesse Ventura kind of burying the finish because he doesn't understand the rules of a steel cage match, it kind of makes the match as a whole suffer a bit, but still, it's a lot of fun. Number 48, Jordynne Grace versus Jacy Jayne at Evolution. Now, as I mentioned at the start of the video, I don't watch NXT, so this match really was my introduction to both Jordynne Grace and Jacy Jayne, and I left the match being very impressed with both of them. Jordynne Grace works so well as that powerhouse figure, and I thought Jacy Jayne was really effective as the heel who had to rely on her team. Of course, this was the match where Blake Monroe turned heel on Jordynne Grace, so when you look at the Evolution match card, initially you think this might be the bathroom break match, given that I don't watch NXT, but I came away being thoroughly entertained by the match, as well as wanting to see all of these wrestlers on the main roster as soon as possible. It was just a really solid introduction into the future of the women's division. Number 47, Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Rodriguez at Night of Champions. Rhea versus Raquel, we've seen that match before, but I really liked the addition of Roxanne Perez into the equation here, because this match not only gave Rhea Ripley a necessary win in order for her to then go on to challenge Io Sky at Evolution for the world title, it also planted seeds for the Roxanne and Raquel friendship. So I thought this was a match that succeeded on two fronts. Not to mention, it's probably my favorite match that Rhea and Raquel have had on the main roster, and after taking so many L's during WrestleMania season, it was nice to see Rhea Ripley finally get a big win under her belt. I don't think this is one of the year's best matches by any means, but I found it super entertaining. Number 46, AJ Styles and Dragon Dragon Lee versus Javon Evans and Leon Slater at Saturday night's main event. Now this match was only like 6 minutes long, but it was non-stop. From bell to bell, this thing was just relentless, and it was a great showcase for both Javon Evans and Leon Slater. Both of them were doing some crazy moves, so were Dragon Lee and AJ Styles. I need Javon Evans and Leon Slater on the main roster now. Even though this was just an exhibition match, I think it has the best length to excitement ratio out of any match this entire year. Number 45, CM Punk and AJ Lee versus Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch at WrestlePalooza. This was a match that only needed to accomplish one thing, and that was give AJ Lee a triumphant return to wrestling. And it absolutely succeeded at that and then some. We got to see another edition of Punk versus Rollins. We got to plant the seeds for an AJ Lee Becky Lynch match that I hope we get sometime soon in 2026. And I think WWE pulled out all of the stops to make this feel like a main event match. For starters, they made it over 30 minutes long. In hindsight, I don't think it needed to be that long. I feel like the 15 to 20 minute mark is the sweet spot here, especially since it was so damn predictable. But even though I was getting a little bit bored during the first half, by the second half, I was engaged, I was entertained, and I thought it was a pretty perfect in-ring return for AJ Lee. Next up at number 44 is the match that set up the mixed tag match at WrestlePalooza, and that is CM Punk versus Seth Rollins versus Jey Uso versus LA Knight at Clash in Paris. As far as Fatal 4-Ways go, I thought this was very entertaining, but as entertaining as the match was, the most memorable thing about it is the fact that Becky Lynch showed up at the end, kicked CM Punk in the nuts so he would take the pin and not LA Knight or Jey Uso, and then for a short time period we had Becky Lynch as a member of the Vision. That moment alone really elevates this match in my opinion, and I think this is a good example of a match being very predictable. We all knew Seth Rollins was going to retain, but WWE made it exciting and unexpected by adding in Becky Lynch, and I thought it was a great moment. Speaking of Fatal 4-Ways though, number 43, Drew McIntyre versus LA Knight versus Jacob Fatu versus Damian Priest at Backlash. This was Jacob Fatu's first title defense for the US Championship, and when compared to the Clash in Paris Fatal 4-Way, I think this one was far better. Drew and Damian going off to fight their own mini-match in the crowd was exciting as all hell. I believe this was the match where JC Mateo debuted as well. I think he was Jeff Cobb at first though. I think the 4 competitors in this match collectively are better in ring than the 4 competitors in the Clash in Paris match. So when I'm comparing both Fatal 4-Ways, this is the one that I would prefer to watch again. And I thought it was a solid way to have Jacob Fatu retain the title against all 3 of these heavy hitters, while also planting the seeds for the Jacob Fatu versus Solo Sikoa story. Number 42, Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton at Night of Champions. This is a match that I did not want to happen in this way. I don't think I needed to see Randy versus Cody as baby faces before I saw heel Randy versus face Cody, but nevertheless, here we are. I also don't like that it was for the King of the Ring tournament, because obviously Cody Rhodes was going to win that, so that predictability does take away from this match a little bit. But nevertheless, I thought the match that we got was really entertaining. Cody Rhodes working the back of Randy Orton I thought was a nice touch, a bit heelish, and afterwards they planted the seeds for a Randy Orton heel turn that at the time of recording this video, they still have yet to deliver on. Hopefully we get to revisit this angle at some point soon. Number 41, Jade Cargill versus Naomi at WrestleMania 41. Leading into WrestleMania 41, Jade versus Naomi was one of my favorite feuds. Jade Cargill returning at the Elimination Chamber, attacking Naomi, revealing her to be the one who attacked her back in September, October. I thought that was brilliant, and I thought their feud was super fun. And it all led to this match at WrestleMania, which I believe is the first women's non-title match in WrestleMania history. That is crazy. And I thought both of them put on a really fun match. Jade Cargill came off looking like an absolute star. Naomi was just hilarious the entire time. This was a match that did everything it was supposed to do, and then some. Number 40, Stephanie Vaquer versus Tiffany Stratton at Crown Jewel. This is a match that wasn't given a lot of time, but I thought both competitors did the most with the time they were given. This match was fast-paced, it was unpredictable, I didn't know who was gonna win. Tiffany hitting her moonsault into the Alabama Slam was insane, and then Stephanie Vaquer ending the match with the corkscrew moonsault thing. Oh my gosh. There wasn't necessarily a big story leading into this match, but I thought both Stephanie and Tiffany did their best to make it as exciting as possible. Number 39, this might be controversial, John Cena versus Gunther at Saturday night's main event. Now, a lot of people online are posting their top 10, top 20 matches of the year lists, and this match is on a lot of those. For me, I'm kind of torn on the whole thing, because if you watched one of my recent YouTube videos, How WWE Ruined John Cena's Retirement Tour, you'll know that I did not like the finish of this match at all. I understand the poetry of it, I understand the artistic nature of it, but when I look at the big picture of it, I don't like it. It doesn't work for me. If you want to see me talk more in depth about the finish, check out that video. But that being said, the finish of the match definitely lowers its place on my list. But also, even before the finish, I wasn't crazy about it. The first third of the match, where it was just Gunther beating down on John Cena, I found kind of boring. Once Cena made his big comeback, obviously things picked up. He hit his 5 moves of doom. He hit Gunther with an AA onto the announce table. I think he had a super AA. It was really exciting, but then the last third of the match was just him in the sleeper hold. And I'll be honest, sleeper holds have never really worked for me in wrestling. I never end up feeling the tension that they want me to feel, because at the end of the day, I know that the sleeper isn't really in, so you're kind of just like watching these two guys just like lie there. And I think that's different than when you're doing actual risky moves, because then that element of danger is in there. But when it's just fighting out of a sleeper, I don't know, matches always kind of lose me there. But not to be so negative about it, I also loved the pomp and circumstance of the whole thing. In WWE, the crowd engagement and the pageantry involved absolutely contributes to the match's quality, and the crowd for this match was just electric. It felt like you were at WrestleMania. So I don't hate this match, and in fact, I'm more positive on it overall. But when I take into account the finish, as well as the fact that the rest of the match, there are some boring spots for me, I can't necessarily get it higher than 39. But that's just for me. If you have it much higher on yours, more power to you. Makes sense. Wrestling is subjective. But yeah, for me, 39 felt like a fair placement. Number 38, Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins at Crown Jewel. This to me was just a very solid wrestling match between these two guys. I don't think it holds a candle to the trilogy of matches that they had in 2022, but I still found it very entertaining. I felt all the drama. I like that Seth Rollins won. I don't like that he did that coast to coast move, which then got him injured. And yeah, that's really all I have to say. I found it very compelling, very solid. To me, it's like the definition of a 4 out of 5 match. Number 37, Rusev versus Sheamus at Clash in Paris. This match was exactly what it needed to be and more. A hard-hitting, meat and potatoes banger. Enough said. Coming in at number 36, this is also going to be very controversial. CM Punk versus Gunther at SummerSlam. Now, this does not include the Seth Rollins cash-in, because that technically is a separate match that I'll get to in a little bit. But every year, there's always one match that everyone is head over heels for that I just can't get into. And for me, this year, it's this match. Don't get me wrong, I still like it. It's number 36. But at the end of the day, I'm not in love with this match like so many other people are. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's really no story involved here. It's literally just Punk won a title shot, Gunther has the title, here's the match. And I think that's fine to do, but in the main event of one of the nights of SummerSlam, I feel like you need some type of a story. It's like John Cena always says in interviews, what's the why? Without the why, no one cares. And that is kind of where I fell with this match. I just didn't care. Really, all of the intrigue was just, is Seth Rollins going to cash in during the match or after? As far as the wrestling goes, I thought it was good. I didn't think it was great. I feel like Punk and Gunther didn't quite gel together for like the first half of the match. It was very slow. There were a lot of chokeholds and submission moves, which again, just like I was saying with Cena versus Gunther, I'm not usually into that kind of stuff. So when it popped up in this match, I just got kind of bored. I will say, once Gunther got cut open, it got really good. From then on, I was invested. I thought this was awesome. I loved CM Punk being that underdog fighting from underneath. But when I step back and look at the whole picture, this is probably one of the more overrated matches just for me. Everyone's got one. Feel free to let me know yours down in the comments below. What's one match this year that everyone loves and you're just kinda lukewarm on? Or at the very least, you think it's a bit overrated? For me, I think it's Punk versus Gunther. It just didn't click for me. Number 35, Dominic Mysterio versus Rusev versus Penta at Saturday night's main event. It honestly shocked me how entertaining this match was. I thought it was fast-paced, hard-hitting, and Dom Mysterio really stole the show when he rang the bell even though the match wasn't over. I just thought that was such an inventive move to add to the match. It made it all the more memorable. And also, the match wasn't that long. It didn't overstay its welcome, like CM Punk versus Gunther did in my opinion. That match was very long. So yeah, I thought this was an absolute blast, and it was my second favorite Saturday night's main event match of the entire year. At this point, you can probably guess what my number 1 was. Number 34, Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss versus Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez at SummerSlam. This was the match where Charlexa won the tag team titles and finally became best friends. And I thought WWE did a great job at telling that story. Having Alexa accidentally hit Charlotte, and then Charlotte comes back and you think she's going to attack Alexa, but then she doesn't. I thought that was great tension. From an in-ring standpoint, I thought this match was really strong. I just found the whole match to be a very pleasant experience. And I absolutely love the Charlotte Flair Alexa Bliss storyline this year. Turning Charlotte Flair into a babyface I think is a genius move, and I just find their dynamic so fun. Whenever they're on TV, whenever they have a match, I'm seated and I'm always entertained. And this match is no different. Speaking of women's tag matches though, number 33, Rhea Ripley and Io Sky versus Asuka and Kairi Sane at Crown Jewel. You have Io Sky standing up for Rhea Ripley to face off against her former friends, the Kabuki Warriors. You also have Rhea Ripley in Australia, and you also have Rhea Ripley and Io Sky forming a tag team of their own. So from a story perspective, there's a lot going on here, but I think WWE nailed the execution. This was such a great crowd-pleasing tag match. We all obviously knew Rhea and Io were gonna win, but sometimes predictable is good. And honestly, the MVP was probably not even Rhea Ripley, it was Io Sky. She absolutely killed it in this match when she was going one-on-one with Asuka, and I just loved the character dynamics. You have Io Sky who's going against her former friends, but then you have Rhea Ripley who doesn't like either one of them, so whenever it's Rhea versus Asuka one-on-one, they're just going at each other. It was all just very interesting, very compelling, very entertaining. Number 32, Jade Cargill versus Naomi at Evolution. I really liked their match at WrestleMania 41, but honestly, upon rewatch, I think their match at Evolution was even better. For starters, they were able to use weapons because it was a street fight or a no DQ match, one of those. And I thought the way they used all of those weapons was really effective. But then you also had the added wrinkle of Bianca Belair being the special guest referee. Now, if I'm being honest, they didn't utilize Bianca a ton in this role, but just having her there really added to the gravity of the situation. In addition to making Jade look like a star, this match made her come off as ruthless, which I thought was a very needed character trait. And also Naomi was far more realized as a heel character in this match compared to the WrestleMania one. So even she was more entertaining here than she was there. I don't know, I thought this match was an absolute blast. I know a lot of people are probably going to be cooking me in the comments for putting a Jade Cargill match above Punk versus Gunther or Cena versus Gunther, but at the end of the day, I think this match did what it needed to do more successfully than those matches. Just my opinion. And again, enough with the Jade Cargill hate. She is perfectly fine as a wrestler. I think she's good. Number 31, Becky Lynch versus Lyra Valkyria at SummerSlam. This is absolutely the weakest match of the Becky and Lyra story, but it still comes in this high up on the list, which shows you just how awesome their feud was. And honestly, while I get the hate that this match gets, I don't completely agree with it. I still find it super entertaining. I love how they incorporated the weapons like the handcuffs and the chair. I wasn't crazy on Bayley's involvement in the match towards the end. I feel like that could have been finessed a bit. But when I just look at the match, I don't think it was bad by any means. In fact, I really like it. It's not as strong as their other matches. We'll get to those later. But as the conclusion to the Lyra-Becky story, I thought it was very effective. And it really showed me just how good Lyra Valkyria is too, my god. And just like that, we have reached the top 30. And coming in at number 30 is a match that some might not consider eligible for this list, but I assure you it is. And that is CM Punk versus Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. Now this match is literally just a cash-in. It's not even a minute long, it's basically just Seth Rollins attacking CM Punk, hitting him with his finisher, and winning the world title. But you have to grade each match on what they're trying to do. If it's a 50-50 epic match, how effective was it? If it's a squash match, how effective was it? If it's a Money in the Bank cash-in, how effective was it? And this was really effective. Honestly, one of the best cash-ins ever, save for Seth Rollins' other cash-in. The only thing that kinda ruined this match is the fact that Seth Rollins faking his injury got leaked weeks before SummerSlam. But I'm not gonna hold the fact that the surprise got leaked against the match because that's not really fair. And let's be honest, in the moment, WWE did a great job of making us think the cash-in wasn't gonna happen. When Seth Rollins walked out with his crutches and then walked away with his crutches, I don't know about you, but I thought for sure he wasn't cashing in that night. He's still clearly injured. They're going to do it somewhere else down the line. But then once he pulled the Willy Wonka and pushed his crutches to the side, we all knew shit was about to go down. So even in the moment itself, WWE still tried to maintain some level of surprise. And I appreciated the hell out of it. I thought this was a great moment and an excellent cash-in. And technically, a match. Number 29, John Cena versus Dominic Mysterio at Survivor Series War Games. Now, I don't know what the general consensus on this match is. I don't know if the majority of fans are cool with the fact that John Cena got kicked in the balls by Liv Morgan or not. I, for one, thought it was awesome. This was easily the best match of Survivor Series War Games this year, which was really a lame card. And the moment where Dom Mysterio faked a shoulder injury, man, they got me. When that moment happened, I thought the dude was legit injured. They did such a good job of working me in that match. It was very commendable. And then after that, you have John Cena put over Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez. That was awesome. Finn and JD come down to the ring and John Cena hits one final double AA of his career. That was fantastic. And then of course you get the biggest moment of the night, the shocking return of Liv Morgan. And that whole bit I thought was just unexpected and hilarious, and I had a blast. If you were gonna take the IC title off of Cena and just put it back on Dom Mysterio, this was the best way to go about it. It was unexpected, it was fun, Cena put over like 5 people. It was such a good example of fun, overbooked wrestling. Number 28, Bayley versus Sol Ruca at Saturday night's main event. This was my favorite match out of all of the Saturday night main event shows this year. Talk about giving the WWE Universe your business card. Sol Ruca did that and then some. Some of the moves she did in this match I had never seen before. Couple that with a dance partner as good as Bayley, this match was excellent. It was fast-paced, it didn't overstay its welcome, it was creative, and as soon as the match ended, I just wanted to go back and watch it again. I need to see Sol Ruca and Zarya on the main roster now. Number 27, Dominic Mysterio versus AJ Styles at SummerSlam. This was a match that I had very low expectations for, mainly because I thought AJ Styles versus Logan Paul at WrestleMania was such a disappointment, and also I knew Dominic Mysterio was going to retain no matter what, so I just wasn't into it. But by the end of this match, both guys completely won me over with this entire feud. I thought this match was hella fun from both an in-ring standpoint as well as a story beat standpoint. I loved the part when Dom tried to get AJ disqualified by pretending like he hit him with a chair and then AJ caught him early and then just played dead as well. I thought it was hilarious. This entire match had so many fun little moments like that. Not to mention from an in-ring standpoint, it was also really good. This was honestly the most pleasantly surprising match of SummerSlam for me. Number 26, Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania 41. For a feud that no one cared about leading into WrestleMania, I thought these guys over-delivered on the match itself. For being the only street fight of WrestleMania this year, I thought it really did a good job. It was fast-paced, brutal, the finish was insane. Do I love the fact that this feud continued for another month after this match? Not really. But goddamn, that Claymore kick to end the match, it was awesome. Number 25, Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky versus Naomi at SummerSlam. This was WWE's second triple threat involving Rhea and Io this year, and I thought it was a lot of fun. Is it as good as the triple threat with Bianca at WrestleMania? Absolutely not. We'll get to that one much later. But the addition of Naomi, I thought, really added to the match and made it feel different. Instead of these three just trying to put on a 5-star classic, Naomi added the right amount of humor to it all, and I thought it really made it stand out. Did I ever for 1 second think she was going to lose? No. But for an opener to night 2 of SummerSlam, I thought this absolutely did the job and then some. Rhea and Io are like wrestling soulmates. Their chemistry is so good. And Naomi as champion was golden. I cannot wait for her to come back because her heel run was fucking hilarious. Number 24, the Women's Royal Rumble. Full disclosure, I am a massive Royal Rumble fan. So even if we get a really bad Royal Rumble, odds are it's still probably gonna make it pretty high up on my list because Royal Rumbles are just so much fun. And this year's Women's Royal Rumble was so much fun. For starters, this match had the shocking return of Alexa Bliss, which for me was the return of the year, just given how unexpected it was. Then you couple that with all the other surprises like Nikki Bella and Trish Stratus and the return of Charlotte Flair. This whole thing was so much fun. I love Royal Rumbles. Once we got into the back half of the match and it was like Charlotte, Nia, and Roxanne as the final three, I wasn't crazy about it. I feel like when you get to the final three of any Rumble match, they need to be three wrestlers who you could realistically see winning. Once we got to the final three here, we all knew it was Charlotte. And I also don't like the way that they eliminated a bunch of the other players by having Nia Jax like hit them all at once. That was also a bit of an L. But overall, even though it's not one of my favorite Women's Royal Rumbles, I still thought it was super fun, and honestly, I like that Charlotte won. I don't like that she won as a heel. I feel like she should have returned just as a babyface. But after being away for so long, I was perfectly fine with Charlotte Flair winning. Number 23, Tiffany Stratton versus Trish Stratus at Evolution. This is a match that had practically zero build and not a lot of hype, and it also ended up only being like 8 minutes, but man, did it over-deliver. This match was great. Trish Stratus still has it. She can compete with the very best of them, and honestly, looking back at the entire year, this was my favorite Tiffany Stratton match. I thought the match was well-paced, it had good moments. I never for 1 second thought Trish was gonna win, but I really enjoyed seeing this clash of generations. And I just wish that WWE treated it with a bit more respect beforehand by giving them an actual feud to work with, because the actual match we got was so goddamn good. I encourage you all to go back and re-watch it, because again, for only being 8 minutes, this thing cooked. Number 22, Becky Lynch versus Lyra Valkyria at Money in the Bank. This is the follow-up to their Backlash match where Becky Lynch finally got her hands on the IC title, and while I don't think it's as good as the Backlash match or the one at Evolution, more on those in a bit, I still think this was an excellent, crisp as hell match. This entire feud really put Lyra Valkyria over in a big way. It just proved that she is one of the best in-ring wrestlers at WWE today. Did that rhyme? But yeah, this was an excellent sequel, flawlessly performed. The only thing holding it back is how good the first match was. Number 21, LA Knight versus Jacob Fatu at WrestleMania 41. This might be shocking to say, but this was my favorite singles match at WrestleMania this year. And I knew this match was going to be good because Jacob Fatu, but I didn't know it was going to be that good because LA Knight. These two guys just cooked from start to finish. I honestly didn't know who was going to win because yes, you want to crown Jacob Fatu at his first WrestleMania, but also you have LA Knight who is so over. Honestly, out of all of the singles matches at WrestleMania this year, this was easily my favorite. And now we have reached the top 20. Are you still there? Let me know if you are. Coming in at number 20, the Fatal 4-Way for the women's tag team titles at Evolution. From an in-ring standpoint, this entire thing was a blast. Seeing these 4 different teams interact with each other was just so refreshing. You had a legacy team in the Kabuki Warriors, you had the unlikely pairing of Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. Can they coexist? Can they work together? You had Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez. Again, can they coexist? Can they work together? And then you had Sol Ruca and Zarya representing NXT in a big way. And I just thought the whole thing was so goddamn fun. But what stands out the most about this match is it's where Charlotte Flair turned babyface. Or more specifically, it's where the crowd turned Charlotte Flair babyface. After being booed from the time she returned all the way to WrestleMania 41, this unlikely friendship with her and Alexa Bliss just kept building and building, and then you get to this match at Evolution, and it just like blossomed, and the crowd was so behind Charlotte Flair that when she got the hot tag, it was like oddly emotional. And then you couple that with the moment where Charlotte Flair saves Alexa Bliss from being speared by Zarya. It was just such an excellent moment. I love a good 5-star classic match, but what really stands out to me in WWE matches are the storytelling, the moments. And everything surrounding Charlotte Flair in this match was a moment. And as a huge fan of Charlotte Flair, I loved it. Number 19, John Cena versus CM Punk at Night of Champions. Now let me get this out of the way first. From an in-ring standpoint, this is not the crispest match. But to me, it's the story that really carries this. Because John Cena and CM Punk have such an iconic history that seeing them run it back one more time just felt so cathartic and emotional. And even though this was not a bang bang wrestle match, I was still seated and hyped as hell for the entire runtime. Because I was just so connected to the wrestlers, to the story. I loved when the Vision gets involved and the two of them have to almost work together to stop them. I just thought it was an excellent send-off to their rivalry. Not to mention the feud leading into this match was also awesome. Sometimes the story of the match is just more important than what's actually going on in the ring. This is one of those matches. And by no means do I think it was an awful match from an in-ring perspective. I thought it was really good. But obviously it's not on the same level as like Cena versus AJ. But seeing two of my favorite wrestlers of all time go at it one last time, I loved it. Number 18, John Cena versus Logan Paul at Clash in Paris. Now this match is the exact inverse of John Cena versus CM Punk, where what's going on in the ring matters way more than the story. Because what is the story? Logan Paul's been a dick to John Cena and him are gonna have a match, that's it. But what's going on in the ring was really good. Not to mention they had the Paris crowd behind them, that was insane. This was the start of John Cena starting to call back to some of his old opponents' signature moves, and whether you like him or not, Logan Paul can go in the ring. So while I wasn't emotionally invested in this match, man did I enjoy it. Number 17, the Fatal 4-Way for the Men's Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 41. Braun Breaker, Dom Mysterio, Finn Balor, and Penta. 4 completely different wrestlers, each bringing their own unique style into this match, and somehow it all gelled together perfectly. You have Braun Breaker, who's basically like a human wrecking ball, a tank, just destroying everyone in his path. Then you have Penta, who's bringing in the Lucha Libre style, doing a lot of high flying stuff. Then you have Finn Balor, who's just an absolute technician. And then you got Dom Mysterio, who's just being the weaselly heel that he is. It was all so goddamn entertaining. I honestly think the crowd would have been fine with any one of these guys winning. But at the end of the day, Dom won, and that was a great moment. It's crazy that when you look at WrestleMania this past year, the 3 best matches were all multi-person. It makes me think that that's the direction we're probably going to start heading moving forward. Number 16, the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. I don't see people talking about this match a lot, but man, I loved it. You had El Grande Americano doing some crazy spots in this match. This was also the moment where Jacob Fatu finally turned on Solo Sikoa. Then you got the Vision getting involved, stopping LA Knight from winning. You had the giant Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey ladder. I honestly thought this was an excellent ladder match, but for some reason people aren't really talking about it as one of the year's best matches. Maybe because the finish was just so predictable. We all knew Seth Rollins was gonna win, but still, I loved it. Come to think about it, maybe the reason people aren't talking about it as much is because there was another ladder match that happened this year that also was excellent. And lo and behold, coming in at number 15, the TLC ladder match for the WWE Tag Team titles at SummerSlam. This match was just bonkers. Insane spot after insane spot. Candice LeRae went through a ladder and broke it in half. Tommaso Ciampa was dangling from the briefcase doing like this inverted thing. The whole thing was just insane. The only reason why it doesn't quite make my top 10 is because I wasn't emotionally invested in what was going on. It was just a really awesome, crazy TLC match. And listen, you don't need to be emotionally invested in every single match. It's perfectly fine to just have a match that's a spot fest. But that being said, I like to be emotionally invested in the stories that are being told. So if there's a match that doesn't quite have that story, it might not make it to that like top 10 level. And don't get me wrong, I still think this match is excellent and comes in at number 15. Coming in at number 14, John Cena versus Randy Orton at Backlash. Similar to Cena versus Punk, John Cena and Randy Orton have an absolutely iconic rivalry. I would argue that Randy Orton is John Cena's most iconic rival, so seeing them go at it one last time was just the end of my childhood. And honestly, I thought the match was incredible. And it was basically just the Randy Orton show. He was just hitting RKO after RKO. He was hitting Cena with AA after AA. Honestly, this might be my favorite John Cena and Randy Orton match ever. Because as iconic as their rivalry was, they didn't always have the best matches. And this Backlash match was fantastic. It honestly might be my favorite match of their entire rivalry. The only thing I don't love is the fact that R-Truth got involved at the end. I think that was a lame way to give Randy the protected loss. I would have rather just had John Cena cheat. But yeah, this match was the perfect send-off to this iconic rivalry. Number 13, Becky Lynch versus Lyra Valkyria versus Bayley at Evolution. Other than the two iconic triple threats at WrestleMania, this was the best triple threat of the year. I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but it was relentless, it was fast-paced, it could have main evented the show for crying out loud, it was that good. Becky Lynch is absolute gold as a heel, Lyra continues to be one of the best in-ring wrestlers today, and I was happy that Bayley finally got a chance to put on a killer match this year after being taken off of the WrestleMania card. This whole thing was just excellent, crisp, thrilling, all of it. Evolution was my favorite PLE of the year, and this match was a major reason for that. Number 12, the Men's Elimination Chamber. Now, full disclosure, at the start of this match, I thought it was fine. Damian Priest, Drew McIntyre, Logan Paul, makes sense. But once you get to the final three, John Cena, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, this thing freaking cooks. From then on out, it's just perfect. John Cena and CM Punk having a moment where after all of these years, they're finally face to face in the ring again. It was just so emotionally charged. Cena goes in for a handshake and then Punk says, "Nah," gives him a big ol' hug. It was just my childhood happening again in front of my eyes. The two of them then team up to take on Seth Rollins, who was such a good heel in this match. Then you get the absolutely fantastic finish where Seth Rollins curb stomps CM Punk, and then Cena just takes advantage of the opportunity, saying "I'm sorry" while he's choking out Punk. It was like beautiful. It was cinema. From a story standpoint, it's one of the best men's chamber matches I've ever seen. Coming in at number 11, though, is the Men's Royal Rumble. Like I said, I love a good Royal Rumble, and this year, the Men's Rumble was so good. It was just filled with so many great moments. You start off with Rey Mysterio and Penta facing off for the first time in WWE. You got Jacob Fatu and Braun Breaker just going crazy the entire match. Braun Breaker spears the living hell out of IShow Speed. Joe Hendry makes his Rumble debut. Roman Reigns is in a Rumble for the first time in years. Then, of course, you get John Cena, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and Seth Rollins all in the ring together at once. That just blew my mind. If you were to tell me that was going to happen 2 years ago, I wouldn't have believed you. And honestly, in the moment, I really liked the shocking finish of having Jey Uso win instead of John Cena because it was unexpected. Far too often people criticize WWE for playing it safe, and here they took a big risk. And I don't think it failed, it was just polarizing. Either way though, I thought this was an incredible men's rumble that set up a bunch of different WrestleMania matches, as well as gave fans some iconic, fun moments. Whew! But now we're here. The top 10. The top 10 best WWE PLE matches of 2025. Are you still there? I hope you are. Without further ado, here we go. Coming in at number 10 Io Sky versus Stephanie Vaquer at WrestlePalooza. This was a shining star of a match on an absolutely dogshit PLE that was WrestlePalooza. This was just a classic one-on-one match between two competitors, not relying on gimmicks and stipulations and weapons and other wrestlers. It was one-on-one, and it was so damn good. If I had to describe it in a word, smooth. It was smooth as hell. It was basically the coming out party for Stephanie Vaquer as she won the Women's World Championship. And man, when she hit that corkscrew moonsault, oh my god. I think that was my first time ever seeing her hit that move. Also the Devil's Kiss too. That's fun. This was just such a good bang bang wrestle match. It was well paced, it was unpredictable, it was simply one of the best matches of the year. Coming in at number 9, the Women's Elimination Chamber. Out of all of the gimmick matches this year for both the men and women, the Royal Rumble, Elimination Chamber, Money in the Bank, War Games, this match was the best. From an in-ring standpoint, I thought it was incredible, but from a story standpoint, holy shit. Starting off the match with Jade Cargill's shocking return as she marches down to the ring, attacking Naomi, revealing her to be the one who attacked Jade Cargill initially. What a way to start a show. And then after this incredibly shocking moment that feels like a bomb went off, now the focus shifts over to Bianca Belair. And we tell this story of Bianca trying to win the Elimination Chamber after just being traumatized. The whole thing was just so powerful and emotionally compelling. It was honestly riveting from start to finish. And then once we get to the final two of Bianca versus Liv, these two put on a clinic. Liv Morgan is so underrated as an in-ring competitor. She is great. She's obviously incredible as a character on TV. She's very funny and charismatic. But when she gets in the ring, she can go. And this match was no exception. I thought the whole thing was just incredible. It's one of the examples this year that makes me have some faith in Triple H as the head of creative. Give us more matches and moments like that, we'll be set. Coming in at number 8, Becky Lynch versus Lyra Valkyria at Backlash. Similar to Io versus Stephanie, this was just a bang bang wrestle match. There were no stipulations, there were no weapons involved, it was just two people finding out who was the best. And man, this was crisp as hell. After this match, Lyra Valkyria instantly became one of my favorite wrestlers working today. And this whole match was just so unpredictable. I had no idea who was going to win the entire time, and when Lyra eventually did win, I was like shocked. I'm also shocked that I don't see people talking more about this match. Seriously, go back and rewatch it. It's killer. And it proves once again why Becky Lynch is one of, if not the GOAT of women's wrestling. Because in one match, she was able to help make Lyra Valkyria for life. I love this match. I think it's fantastic. Coming in at number 7, Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens at the Royal Rumble. The Kevin Owens feud has been the most interesting thing Cody Rhodes has done since winning the title at WrestleMania 40. And this match at the Royal Rumble was one hell of a way to blow off this feud. It was brutal, it was dirty. Cody Rhodes really showed his inner Homelander here. The whole thing was just like watching a car crash in the best way possible. After this match, I didn't know if Kevin Owens would be able to top himself, but nevertheless, he did. Which is why, coming in at number 6, Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens at the Elimination Chamber. Holy crap. If you thought the Rumble match was brutal, Jesus. If there is one match from 2025 that you should show someone who doesn't watch wrestling just to get their reaction, it's this one. This shit was just wild. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens have had plenty of matches in the past, but this might be my favorite, especially when you factor in the brutality of it, as well as the emotion. When Randy Orton shows up after the match and Kevin Owens is just in tears screaming, man, I felt that. This was like intense. It is such a shame that Kevin Owens got injured because not only was he one of the highlights from a character perspective, he gave us two of the year's absolute best matches. But now we have reached the coveted top 5. And coming in at number 5, I got CM Punk versus Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins at WrestleMania 41. This was just cinema. Absolute cinema. From an in-ring standpoint, it was excellent, but the story of this match, my God, WWE at their best. The match was essentially for the custody of Paul Heyman, and boy did they deliver some twists and turns. Paul Heyman turning on CM Punk with anguish in his eyes, followed by him turning on Roman Reigns with absolute vitriol in his eyes, and then shocking the world by teaming up with Seth Rollins, who for the longest time felt like a third wheel in this match. It was just perfect. Not to mention CM Punk got a proper WrestleMania main event and an entrance with Living Color. For the longest time, I didn't think they deserved that spot because there wasn't a title on the line, but after this match, there was no question about it. This was a WrestleMania main event. Number 4, John Cena versus AJ Styles at Crown Jewel. The match that I never wanted to end. Honestly, if these two guys just kept trading finishers for another 2 hours, I still would have put it this high on the list. This was such a love letter to wrestling. It was such a love letter to John Cena's past opponents and AJ Styles' past opponents. It was a love letter to the fans who were there to see all of these moves and to see all of these moments. And it was a love letter to both John Cena and AJ Styles, one who is already retired and another who probably will be retired in a few months. This match was the WWE equivalent of Rocky and Apollo having one more match behind closed doors at the end of Rocky 3. It's just two good friends who want to mix it up again one last time. And it was incredible. John Cena hitting the Sister Abigail was one of the best moments of his entire retirement tour, but then you couple that with him hitting an RKO and a tombstone and the walls of Jericho and trying to hit a 619 but having AJ hit him before he could do it. The whole match just felt like we were all on cloud 9 for the entire runtime. The vibes here were immaculate. I don't think any match has put a bigger smile on people's faces this year than this one. Now we got the top 3. Coming in at number 3, Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky versus Bianca Belair at WrestleMania 41. Long story short, a 5-star classic. Not only is this the best WrestleMania opener I've ever seen in my lifetime, but it's also the best women's WrestleMania match I've ever seen, period. From bell to bell, this thing was just non-stop. It was just near fall after near fall, insane spot after insane spot. It was 3 of the best to ever do it, doing it. Honestly, as time goes on, I feel like this match is only going to get better in the eyes of the fans. It was easily the best match of WrestleMania, and damn it did they make a good case for why they should have main evented instead of Cody versus Cena. Honestly, one of the best wrestling matches I've ever seen. Coming in at number 2 though is basically the sequel to this match, and that is Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky versus Naomi at Evolution. Big E said it best in the post-show after Evolution. This wasn't just a great match, this was a spiritual experience. It was nail-biting, it was unpredictable as hell, and it was a great story of Io Sky basically just having Rhea Ripley's number. She had an answer for literally everything Rhea threw at her, and man, once you get to the back half of this match, I was on the edge of my seat for the entire time. And to top it off, it had a perfect Money in the Bank cash-in moment, where Naomi shocked the world by going for the Raw World title instead of the SmackDown one. That shocking moment was just the cherry on top. Again, one of the best wrestling matches I've ever seen. Goddamn, the women absolutely cooked this year. But coming in at number 1, the best WWE PLE match of 2025, I got John Cena versus Cody Rhodes at SummerSlam. We got Super Cena back for one last match, and man was it good. Tables, chairs, exposed steel, not to mention Cena giving Cody an AA while using the Cody Vader. Absolute aura. This is the epic Clash of Generations battle that we wanted WrestleMania to be. But even though the WrestleMania match sucked, it helped us lead to this match where we finally get babyface John Cena back and it feels earned, even though his face turn beforehand was kind of shitty, and it felt like an earned passing of the torch moment. This whole thing was incredible. It's easily one of Cena's best matches of all time, and it is the number 1 best match of 2025. But that's it. That's my list for every single goddamn match ranked from worst to best, all 99 of them. My voice is shot. I don't even drink tea that much, but now I feel like I have to go drink tea. But that's it. What did you think about it? Comment below and let me know. And you don't need to list out all 99 matches if you don't want to. If you do, I'll definitely read it. But if you want to keep things simple, just list off your 5 favorite and your 5 least favorite matches of the entire year. That's all I got though. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around for this very long video. Hope everyone has a happy holiday season and happy new year, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.